Our next guest is known as the man who saw it all before everybody saw it. We're talking about a year ago, October, during the first month of Fox Business's young life. He predicted the global economic meltdown and the Dow falling below 10,000 that is now bringing the market to its knees. And now he says things are going to get even worse. Great. Especially if we pass this massive spending stimulus plan. He is Peter Schiff, Euro Pacific Capital President and author of Crash Proof, How to Profit from the Coming Economic Collapse, which is here now, actually. He'll be spending the last hour of trading with us today. Hi, Peter.
Hi, Liz.
Worse? Define worse. Can you?
Oh, I mean, it's going to get horrific if we pass these stimulus plans. I remember when they passed the first stimulus, when I was talking on Fox Business, remember Bush's $200 billion, whatever that original stimulus was?
People got the checks for $500 to $700.
Yeah, I mean, I knew that would help make it worse, and they would come back with a bigger stimulus. The stimuluses are basically the equivalent of throwing gasoline on a fire. The problem with our economy has always been too much spending and too much borrowing. Unfortunately, the solution is this recession. The solution is that credit is reined in, that Americans don't go and buy new cars and don't buy new houses and start saving their money. We need capital available for private enterprise.
You've talked about how what we're doing is we've got a very cracked foundation. And instead of fixing the foundation, we're building a brand new building on top of a foundation that's going to collapse.
Sure. I mean, people don't understand that what's happening now is not the problem. This is the consequence of the problem. The problem was the phony consumer credit-driven economy that we lived under for so long. And, you know, the real crisis is not here yet. The real crisis is the one that we're making now. Once the bond bubble bursts and the dollar collapses, then we're going to have sky-high interest rates and consumer prices at the same time.
You've talked about lines. You've talked about food lines and lines for things because people won't be finding that it's profitable to manufacture anything anymore.
Well, the reason we're going to have lines for food is I think the government is going to put price controls in on food and energy, because all the inflation that the government is creating right now is going to lead to sky-high prices for those types of goods. And what the government is going to do is repeat the mistakes of the 1970s.
We're Russia. Lines for food. That's what Peter says.
Well, they're going to put on price controls, and that creates shortages.
Let me just quickly mention, though, that you've come under attack by these bloggers lately. And, of course, you can't believe every blogger that's out there, but the Journal jumped on this. And they wrote an article saying that while your forecasts have been spot on, the way you've invested your money isn't. They say Peter Schiff predicted the collapse of the U.S. financial system. The bust-up he didn't foresee was the one that made mincemeat of investors who took his advice of pouring into gold and pouring into certain things.
Well,
what is your defense?
Well, first of all, they weren't mincemeat. Anyone that bought gold was actually...
some are down 70%.
Well, no, there was a couple down 60, but one of the guys in the article was only down 35%. But they're looking at part of the strategy. They're looking at foreign stocks. Sure, all stocks went down in 2008. But my strategy was not for 2008. I've been pursuing this strategy for almost a decade. It did very well from 2000 to 2007. It's already doing very well in 2009. And if you look at the next 3 to 5 years, I think even the clients who came in at the worst possible time, who were down 60%, I think they're going to have staggering profits by the time Obama leaves office.
You had a bad year. All right. Jobless claims are still soaring. That, I'm sure, plays into your whole picture. And an ugly jobs report is expected for tomorrow for the month of January. When will we see the unemployment tsunami recede? And will that be the sign of an economic recovery? Sandra Smith, what do you think?
I'm going to agree with Peter Schiff right off the start here, and the fact that it's going to get a lot worse before it's going to get better. I think that the market's already bracing for a very ugly jobs number tomorrow, Liz. And we've already seen in the past week Macy's, Eastman, Kodak, and Starbucks cut. But with most economists saying it's going to get better in the second half or the first half of 2010, I think we're going to start to see these companies not be cutting so many jobs in the second half.
Robert Cray, they always say unemployment numbers are a rear view indicator.
They are, and the market tends to try and rally 6 to 9 months ahead. We've seen a couple of false start rallies. We may be witnessing one here today. Unclear. We won't know for some time. But clearly it's going to get a little bit worse. I mean, economists I've been talking to, traders, don't see it abating this month or next month. Because keep in mind, all those huge announcements we've had in the past week or two, they won't be taking place until the next month or two. So we are going to see these numbers at least stay at this level, if not increase a little bit, before they start to recede a little bit, perhaps later in the year.
Peter, I know you think it's going to get worse. How much worse will the unemployment rate get?
Well, I don't even think the unemployment rate does justice to how bad it is, but I think we're going to have tens of millions of Americans unemployed, specifically if we continue to follow these programs that we have now. You know, she said it's going to get worse before it gets better. It's not going to get better until we change course, until the government cuts spending, until we have rational monetary policy, until we do everything the exact opposite of what we've been doing. It's not going to get better.
Won't that push us into a depression?
No, what's going to push us into the depression is the policies that we're pursuing now. We're going to have a severe recession. There's no way around that. We have to rebalance our economy. But if the government keeps blocking the free market from functioning, we will create another Great Depression, only an inflationary depression.
I told you folks, he's a joy to be around. The closing bell ringing in 47 minutes, but he's been right. We'll talk to the people making the trades. That's in our floor show next. And later, how much a bang will we really get for each particular stimulus buck? Mark Zandi with Moody'sEconomy.com has crunched the numbers. He'll tell us just how to get out of this economic mess. It's a Fox Business exclusive coming up right here on Countdown to the Closing Bell. Dow still up 80 points. Thank you so much. What's everybody watching right now? I'll start with Peter Schiff.
Well, I was just watching your interview with Mark Zandi, and again, it typifies what's wrong with the economic thinking. This stimulus is actually a depressant. And, according to Mark, an economy grows because people spend money. He's got it completely backwards. He's got the cart before the horse. An economy grows because of production, and production is made possible by savings. And so what we need to stimulate the economy is more savings, which leads to more production. We don't want more spending. We don't want the government spending money. We don't want consumers spending money. They've spent too much. Unfortunately, the act in the short run of not spending is going to mean that we're going to have a more severe recession right now. But it's extremely necessary because we're broke. This stimulus bill, all the infrastructure spending, we are too broke. We can't afford to spend money on infrastructure. That doesn't improve the economy. You need a productive economy to afford infrastructure. We can't afford it right now. We need to build factories. We need to make stuff. And the only way we're going to do that...
We need people to buy the stuff that we're making?
No, we need to sell the stuff abroad. Americans have too much stuff. We've been buying stuff for years we couldn't afford. We need to pay back our bills. We need to get out of this hole. We need to make stuff and export it. That's what we need to do.
Listen, I do agree with so much of that. Robert Gray.
Yeah, I'm starting to feel like George Carlin. I need a place for my stuff. But anyway, I'm watching the home builders up here, Liz. They're getting a jump here. Barclays Global Fund Advisors, by the way, announcing they've taken stakes in a number of them, including Beazer, Syntex, DR Horton here. Passive stakes. So we're talking about, sort of 8% stakes in these companies. Pretty sizable, these coming from SEC filings.
Yeah, look at those home builders today. Sandra Smith, what are you watching right now?
Yeah, Liz, when it comes down to it, these retail sales numbers for January were dismal indeed, but some of these retailers are rocking right now. Taking a look at Walmart, Target, Macy's, all three of these companies beat expectations. They're definitely finding a way to get that penny pinching consumer through the door. Why? How? Big sales. You've seen the signs out there.
That's the last thing we want. We want to keep the consumers at home. We don't want them going back to the stores. We don't want them opening up their wallets and reaching for their credit cards. They need to put their money in the bank.
Peter, unemployment may go, if we do allow that, to 14, 15.
It's going to go higher if we interfere. The only way we're going to have productive employment is to allow the private sector to create it. We don't want jobs so we can work. We need productive jobs. Everybody in the Soviet Union had a job. They all worked for the government, and they were all flat broke. We're headed in the same direction. You guys are watching things in the market. You ought to watch gold. Look at gold today, up another $15. I think around $920 an ounce. It's not going to be below 1,000 for long. And if we keep pursuing these policies, it's going to 5,000. It could go higher.
You're buying gold stocks, gold miners, all of these.
Yeah, interesting. The gold stocks, a lot of the gold stocks I own got clobbered in about 6 months towards the end of 2008. But many of those gold stocks in the last 2 months have tripled and quadrupled. There's actually gold stocks now making 52-week highs. There's not that many stocks that are doing that. So people are figuring out that this is an inflationary plan.
The only difference between salad and garbage is timing. Timing the gold buy. I'm in it. The closing bell is ringing in 19 minutes. Could taxpayers soon be the proud owners of some of this country's banks? No, outright ownership, nationalization. We've got a guest who says there is an alternative to nationalization. We'll tell you what that alternative is next. Stay tuned.
Everywhere around the world, they come into America. Every time that flag...
Hold on, here we go. This is the tape of Tim Geithner, Treasury Secretary, just in. Let's listen.
Nice to see you all. This is the first meeting of the President's Working Group on Financial Markets since President Obama was elected and took office. This, as you know, is a critically important group. It brings together in one place, around one table, the most important institutions that oversee our financial system. Together, this group has the authorities and instruments and experience and talent that are going to be critical to helping solve the deep financial problems facing our country. We're going to do two things today. Our agenda is to begin to shape the architecture of a financial recovery plan that'll help get credit flowing again and help reinforce the recovery and reinvestment plan now working its way through the Congress. But we also want to use this opportunity to begin the process of shaping a consensus on a comprehensive reform of our financial system, so that neither the U.S. economy or the global financial system ever again faces a crisis of this magnitude. So I'm very pleased to be here together with this group of people. The President believes this group is very important, recognizes the importance of these set of institutions, and we're going to have to do this together, working closely together. Not just in the United States, but with countries around the world. Thank you very much.
Fed Chairman Ben Bernanke, Sheila Bair, Larry Summers, and a whole host of people right next to Timothy Geithner, the new Treasury Secretary, who just said that the agenda will be taking shape. They are putting together the architecture of a financial recovery plan. They're trying to shape a consensus on fixing our financial world. Let's get everybody's reaction. Peter Schiff.
They ought to dismantle this committee, every committee the government has. They ought to fire every government economist. None of these guys are going to make the situation better. They're only going to make it worse. And you mentioned earlier about the banks and the FDIC. The FDIC is broke. The government's going to have to print money to pay off the depositors, which means the depositors are going to get their money, but the money is going to be absolutely worthless when they get it. So big deal. It doesn't matter if you get your money out of the bank, but then you take it to the grocery store and you can't buy anything.
Are you still living in Connecticut?
I am, but I'm stocking up. And I'm getting a dog.
To protect the property.
Yes.
I got my tent and my shotgun. Sandra Smith.
Well, Liz, he hit the nail on the head, in my opinion. I mean, he's focusing on the fact that this is not a crisis just here in the United States. Tim Geithner is saying that they're going to work closely with other countries on this recovery. This is a global crisis, and it's good to hear.
Robert Gray.
Yeah, they're showing, a force of one, if you will, getting together to try and instill some confidence here, not working with Peter Schiff, perhaps working with some investors, at least today, that they are getting together on the same page. We'll see what happens when they actually do more than just get together and talk a little bit.
They've got to do something.
Yeah, they should get out of the way. They should cut back on government. Government is the problem. Bad monetary policy got us into this mess. Excess regulation. We need to allow the market to function again. Unfortunately, we have to let our economy, we have to rebuild a solid foundation. We can't try to prop up the phony economy that's collapsed.
Do you agree that with the Republicans who say we need way more tax cuts in this plan?
Well, I'd like to have tax cuts, but we can't afford them. We need spending cuts first. If the government will stop spending, then they can stop taxing. But just to cut taxes and then print the difference, that's more inflation. That's more of the problem. We need a cure.
And what is the final cure after we have let everything shake out? Because the way you talk, there would be sheer bloodletting.
Well, there's going to be bloodletting based on what the government is doing. Ultimately, we're going to have a real choice to make in this country. Do we completely destroy our currency and have hyperinflation, not just high inflation like we had in the 1970s, but real German Weimar Republic-style hyperinflation where we're carting our money around in wheelbarrows? If we don't want to have that, then we're going to have to do the exact opposite of what we're doing now. We're going to have to bite the bullet. We're going to have to raise interest rates, and we're going to have to let companies go out of business, let banks fail, and let this country go back to work.
Volcker's there. Didn't he do that?
He can't. He's not doing that now. I mean, Volcker doesn't even have the power to raise interest rates like they did in 1980. They did the right thing back then. They're doing the exact wrong thing right now. At some point, Volcker's going to have to resign, or his reputation is going to go down with the economy.
Sales of German Shepherds are going up as we speak, protecting the property. That's what you're getting. How did I know that? Peter Schiff of Euro Pacific Capital. Thank you for joining us today. We're 6 minutes from the close. Let me throw it for our 7 late.